We're here today to talk about 3 materials that are very commonly used in our industry for cookware. We're going to be talking about aluminum, stainless steel, and cast iron. None of these pans will be coated. We're just going to talk about the base materials, even though some of them can get some different coatings if we talk about the different ways they're used. All of these materials start as an alloy, which generally just means we're adding different things into the mix of the base material to get the material we use in cooking. It's things that we put in to change the properties somewhat, make them harder, generally giving them more strength or durability. One of the first things we'll talk about with these different alloys is their melting points. Aluminum has a fairly low melting point, right around 1200 degrees or so Fahrenheit. Stainless steel's about 2600, and cast iron about 2200. So you can definitely see there's a difference in the melting point of each one of these materials. Also, that affects the weight. The lightest that we have today will be our aluminum pan. This pan will weigh in at just over 2 pounds. The stainless pan's a little bit heavier, 2.5 pounds. And a little more than that with our other stainless steel pan. And then our cast iron being our heaviest pan at almost 6 pounds. That's one of the factors when you're considering cookware, is the weight of the cookware. If we're going to be using it, lighter is better. Something like this that's heavier, you can see with the helper handle on the front, this is probably intended to be just set on the stove and left alone to cook for. Another thing you'll notice about these materials is the look. Each one has a little different appearance. Our aluminum is more of a dull finish. This is just a simple finished aluminum. It's going to always look pretty much this way unless it's coated. Our stainless steels are going to have a little bit more polish to them, a little brighter finish. Something like this maybe for front of the house might be a consideration. Our cast iron is always going to look like this unless it has that porcelain coating on it, which some display cookware might. Otherwise, this is the base material, and this is pretty much how it's going to look. Let me tell you why selecting the right material to pair to your dish is important. If you have anything like acids, salts, vinegars, anything like that that can be corrosive, aluminum is not the right choice. This material being soft, you can find that it eventually will pit through the bottom of the pan in continuous use. Acids and salts are just too aggressive for soft materials like aluminum. Better choices are stainless steel, even cast iron. Depending on the type of acid, cast iron can have a bit of a reaction to certain acids and salts as well. So there, definitely stainless steel is your best choice. What aluminum is good for, super versatile piece of cookware, anything from solid pieces of meat, chicken, fish, anything like that, even sauces. Now cast iron, this is best for when we have those hard sears, something blackened, anything where we want to have a longer cook time where that time is going to give us an evenness across the pan. Braising, even cooking things in the oven, breads, muffins, or even a cobbler. Stainless is your most versatile material in cookware. It's not affected by acids or salts like softer materials can be, and it can be used for everything. Sauteing, searing, liquids, really your most versatile choice in material for cookware. Also, when we're thinking of the types of food, we want to talk about the release. Aluminum is actually pretty porous, so things can stick to it a little bit easier than, say, maybe stainless steel. You want to properly season all of these, but that porosity here can also aid a little bit of sticking. The release on stainless, especially if it's seasoned, you're going to get a nice release of food. And cast iron, again, if you season this properly, it's going to give you excellent release, even when you're doing those heavy blackened or hard sears. Whether your cookware is brand new or you've just finished using it, you're going to need to properly clean and care for your cookware to extend the life of it in your kitchen. If you've just used your cookware, make sure you clean it out well to avoid any flavor transfers, especially on things like aluminum that can be a little bit softer. Generally speaking, all the soaps that we use in our pot and pan sinks in our kitchens are going to be fine for this cookware. You just don't want to have anything too caustic, especially as we talk about the aluminums. As it being a softer material, some of those more aggressive soaps can cause some damage to the pan. When you're finished with scrubbing the pans, make sure that you properly dry them, especially when we talk about cast iron. Cast iron will rust, so a little care after washing. Make sure it's dry. You can even put this back on a burner to dissipate any moisture, but then it's most important just to put a little oil in there, rub it down with some oil, make sure we prevent the rust. There's a lot of different ways to go about cleaning cookware, but just staying on top of it is very important. Also, don't forget the outside. Sometimes people think only the inside needs cleaning. The outsides get plenty dirty, and they do too. Let's talk durability. Blanket statement, all cookware, you never want to leave that on a stove just getting hot beyond the temperature you want for cooking. Leaving pans on a heat source for extended periods of time, just not a good thing. Material-wise, again, when we're talking about cookware, durability, aluminum, probably going to be our least durable of all the materials we talked about. It's just simply a soft material. Eventually, over time, the handles can loosen. If we have spoons and things where people are knocking the bottom of the pan, that forms little pits, and that's where the salt will lay in. And eventually, over time, just cause that little bit of pitting in this pan. So probably our least durable of the three materials we're talking about. Stainless steel, really durable. In fact, the only area in stainless steel I want to mention is because we have to attach a handle at some point to the pan, this can be your weakest point. Rivets, welds, they can eventually break. But other than that, stainless is very, very durable. The one thing I will say about stainless pans, especially the type that we have this clad bottom, is anytime you take the pan from a hot stove to a sink of water, it's going to shock the bottom of the pan. And these two materials cooling at different rates can actually cause this very thin disc on the bottom to break off. So there's another factor to consider. Cast iron, this stuff is tough. You got to remember, this was designed to cook over open flame. Integrated handles, so there's no attachment to worry about. That's why you see this kind of stuff put in people's wills and passed down from generation to generation. An important factor when choosing cookware, after all, it's all about cooking, is how does it heat? Different materials heat differently. Aluminum, excellent conductor of heat. Aluminum is the material that if you're heating directly from the bottom is going to do the best job of pulling the heat up the sides and across the pan very evenly and very quickly. Now, stainless cookware oftentimes incorporates aluminum into the design. So now our Vollrath Tribute cookware is an example of a multi-ply where we have stainless on the inside, stainless on the outside, but a core of aluminum. And here again, that aluminum does such a good job of, even when we only have bottom heat, of bringing that heat across the pan and bringing it up the sides. Another choice in stainless steel is the clad bottoms. Now here we've got a little different design that does affect the performance of the pan a little bit, where we have that thick core of aluminum inside of the base. This is going to do an excellent job of distributing the heat across the bottom of the pan, but maybe not up the sides as well as, say, the clad materials do. And lastly, again, our old friend here, cast iron. This is a material that does not do a very good job like aluminum does of transferring the heat energy very quickly or very evenly, but when it gets hot, it stays hot. So each one of these heats in its own way and a little bit differently than all the rest. Induction cooking, very popular method. I'd like to demonstrate with you some of the properties here of that heat transfer. We can't use aluminum as it's not induction ready. A good way, once again, just to make sure your pan's induction ready, just simply take a magnet and wherever it sticks, that's going to be induction ready. So let's try our multi-ply material and do a little demo of melting wax. So I'm going to turn our unit on high. I'm going to use a piece of paraffin wax, and you can see, just turn the pan on, and very quickly, it's already melting the wax. And it's going to melt the wax as we move up the sides. You can see the aluminum on the bottom has already distributed the heat on the bottom, but very quickly it's going to also distribute that heat up the sides of the pan and melt the wax as we go up the side. Everything is melting. That aluminum distributed that heat very evenly up the sides. Let's try our clad bottom pan, same test, cold pan on induction. That thicker bottom now, it's going to do a good job of distributing heat across the bottom and only the bottom. It does not come up the sides in this style. Very thick piece on the bottom, so it's going to take a minute or two, but very quickly, as you can see, here we are, we're melting that paraffin wax. And again, it doesn't draw it up the side, so that's our clad bottom stainless. And we'll do our cast iron. Cast iron is an excellent material to use on induction. It's magnetic, so very quickly that bottom is going to get hot. As you can see, we're going to melt that wax. We're already melting wax here on the cast iron. Very quickly. It's just going to take a little bit more time again to bring that heat up the sides, just as cast iron doesn't do as good a job as the aluminum does in transmitting that heat energy. Depending on what you're doing in your kitchen is going to determine which one of these pans and materials is right for you. At the end of the day, considering the types of material, the way they heat, the types of food we cook in them, the way we clean them, and their durability, it all really boils down to total cost of ownership. I have each one of these in my kitchen, and I use them all. When it comes right down to it, stainless steel, that's still my choice. I like the release factor of stainless, I like the durability of it. To me, a good stainless steel pan, especially with that core of aluminum, it's hard to beat.